Okay, so this is going to just be one video for the Hamden Fall Chess Classic, which took place on September 27th. This was a very bad tournament for me, one of the worst that I've had in a while. It was 4 rounds, game 60 time control, so it's uh, not like a full classical game, but also not the most fast-paced, sort of some in-between area. And I just wanted to get through all these games because there's not that much to talk about in them. Um, Mostly, I'm going to be changing up some openings, and then there's a couple of other, mistakes later on in some. Um, but let's just get right into it. So this first game, I had the black pieces against Peter Korzeb, 1800 rated player. We get a Karo Khan. He plays a sort of King's Indian attack setup with the knight going to d2, bishop on g2. I just develop as I normally would with pawn on e5, just taking control of the center. I castle h3, bishop e6, maybe the first step in the wrong direction. I'm not totally sure. I was thinking after castles, queen d7, that king h2 might be good for me, but it seems sort of like maybe that's just helping white. And so then I was thinking that maybe if castles, I could play like knight d7, but there's always this f4 pawn push for white that makes this sort of whole thing not really make that much sense for me. In the game, I decide that, if f4, I want to be able to meet it with f6. Maybe I'm sort of saying I want to play f5 myself. But I'm sort of treating this like a King's Indian defense now, where I'm like on the white side, but I'm also down a couple of tempi from what I would normally have in this sort of structure. So I wasn't feeling too comfortable. Um, in the game, we get f4 and then takes. G4, I think, was an interesting move. It sort of it stops me from playing f5, but makes f4 from white less effective because I can always take it. However, here I didn't see anything better than just to take this knight because I'm going to be losing a bishop, and I felt like my light square bishop might be more important. If I allow f takes, that's another thing I was considering. But I felt like then the e5 square, I wouldn't be able to push the pawn to e5, so it would sort of just be sitting here on e6. Maybe that would have been better. Um, let's just skip ahead a little bit. Queen c7 was nice because knight g3 is the idea for white. And here, if knight g3, I'll have knight g6 and knight h4. So that would be a very bad move for white, I believe. Um, Still, we develop, trade the queens, and I have this sort of bind with my knights against the bishops. This bishop is quite bad at the moment. This bishop is reasonably well, but I feel like the knights are pretty good at the moment. Maybe I'm going to play c5, maybe a5, a4 at some point, and I was still sort of feeling a little bit ambitious at this point. Maybe I shouldn't be. Um, we trade the knights. Next knight goes in. f6. And here I like my position. And so this is where I feel like maybe things started to go a little bit wrong. Because I played g5, thinking that he's going to trade the knight, and then in this position, I'm feeling very happy with black. I'm sort of pressuring this a pawn. White probably has to play something like a3, and then I'll have this bind on the queen side. If all the rooks come off on the f file, only black can be better there, I feel, because I'll have the breakthrough tactics on the queen side. I have the light square bishop, all these pawns, the pawns are on light squares as well over here and here. So it felt like maybe it's holding, but black is the one pressing. Um, in the game, though, bishop d2, and now I'm like asking myself, why did I just play g5? Now I have a weakness on f6. So that was the first step in the wrong direction. And then here's the other issue, is that now I let this bishop into b4, and then c3 is going to come with the bishop on this side of the pawn chain. Then I can't play c5. So now I feel white has something. I think white has an advantage in the last couple of moves. G5 and a4. I've let in some. Uh, I've let white get a lot of play. That was unnecessary. In the game, I sort of just get pushed around. I play c5 to try to break up this center, seeing this tactic where now I'm hitting this pawn. But then here, in the time pressure, I blunder at this point. Um, After rook takes c8, I need to take with the knight. I take with the bishop, and after e5, I'm essentially just immediately lost. I play a couple more moves, but it's over. Let's take a look at this game. Um, so in the opening, I felt, I had a good position. This position felt very nice for me. Bishop e6, yeah, is probably not the most accurate move. Something like taking on e4, bishop c7, rook e8, all these moves make more sense. Bishop e6 doesn't really, because following up with queen d7 doesn't make much sense. Knight fd7 is also not a good move. I thought that maybe if f4, I wanted to play f6, but actually there's the move d4. It's just passive. I shouldn't be worried about something like this happening because I can take it, takes, and takes, and there's a check. So something like this would have been better. Um, in the game, this move, and after g4 is not the correct response, which it sort of felt like that was not the right thing to do. d4, yeah, now I get to take, and here's the question. Yeah, bishop takes f4 is a fine way of playing. Also, knight e5 allowing the capture on e6 is fine. Let's just take a look at this real quick. Yeah, rook f8, queen f8, oops, sorry. Rook f8, queen f8, knight f3. Something like this. Yeah. I guess this is fine for black as well. Um, this one was chosen. Queen d7, queen e1, knight g6. Yeah, trading the queens is probably not the right idea, but I mean, I don't know. It's still well, knight takes of course should be played. That was sort of what I was anticipating. Um, rook takes was a little bit strange. Um, I thought on knight takes I was going to play knight h4 something like that. But I still have a fine position. Takes, knight e5, f6. Yeah, here g5 is right. No, it's not. The machine doesn't really understand the position very well. But g5, bishop d2, c5. Yeah, I think c5 is sort of an important move. It's not giving it as, only, but basically the idea is I want to play a4, but if I play a4 now, or I play king g7, a4, yes, I need to play c5 now, I think. a4 allows bishop b4, and now I've given white too much. But here, black does have an edge with c5. I felt that way in the game, that I was the one pressing, even after g5, but it was just allowing this was so bad. c3, dc, b6. I just sort of lost control of the position. Now I need to put something on c4. I played knight g6. Okay, c5 is still in the game. c5 is still right. Takes, takes. But now knight f4, playing for more dynamic play instead of this move. This move now I'm giving away. Yeah, now it's already very bad. Even here, if I take with the knight, rook c6 is a problem. Yeah. Yeah, rook c6. How does this rook c6, bishop d7, rook a6? I'm just extremely passive. I mean, even if I'm holding onto material, I'm much worse, but I'm probably also just losing material. This rook might get trapped. Something might get attacked or pinned. It's just a very bad position. In the game, bishop takes just sort of accelerated the end because this is much easier to win. And so that was the end of that game. So it's very unfortunate. I don't think I played too poorly, but I just sort of lost control of the position at a certain point. And then c5 was the idea to get counterplays and break up the center, but not to try to win back the pawn. I should have played more dynamically. So that was game one. Game two is the only game I won. Spoiler for the rest of this tournament. But um, basically, this one we have Slav. I played this knight d2 move again, which I had played in a previous tournament and had success with it. So b5 in this game was new to me. I take on d5, as I learned from the previous game. Bishop d3, and a4, and now already b4 needs to be played, and I like this structure with a4 b4. It gives me the square on b3 to play against. At some point maybe I could consider playing a5, and then this pawn is artificially isolated. There's a lot of ways that this structure sort of favors white, I think. I play an early knight e5 and f4, and I bring the queen out to h5. So I'm threatening mate. There's a few ways of dealing with this, but some are not as some feel very very weakening. Like h6 felt very weakening to me. There might be some issues like f5 already coming. Um, if uh, if g6, I was just going to play queen h6 and think about maybe a rook lift or maybe f5. Um, e4. A lot of these moves can sort of come and it might just be mate. So f5 I thought was a very critical move. by my opponent. Knight f3, and now rook f6. And now here, I think for a long time, there's the move knight g5. Knight g5. If h6, I play knight takes e6, rook takes, queen f7, queen takes, and then at some point, uh, I couldn't quite make the lines work out. I don't totally remember how it was because I was seeing those ideas, but then it felt like my queen sort of just gets trapped at a certain point. So like if we put this on the board, knight g5, if rook h6, then there's a check and knight e6, and this one seems, well, maybe it's the same. Takes, takes, and then this move. Something like this is what I was worried about. Was always this knight takes e5 move. After the game, I asked my opponent if knight g5 worked, and he said no, he didn't think it worked. So I was happy that I didn't play. I just play developing move bishop d2. I'm just saying basically, I'm going to take the c file. Your rook on f6 is not well placed to control the c file. And if I just play natural moves, it's not necessarily that this attack is meant to win the game, but the attack is uh, in many ways designed to keep black's pieces occupied over here while I'm playing on the queen side where I have this sort of target here and also some infiltration squares. And it's also not very easy for black to develop. I have this nice centralized knight. So in the game, this was taken. I took with the knight. If takes with a pawn, then rook h6. I didn't really see what I was going to be getting there. So takes with the knight. Knight d7. I just play rook c1. Bishop develops. And here I just played b3. So I have done really, nothing crazy, nothing super concrete. I'm just playing moves. I have, control over the c file for now. If rook c8, I was just going to take it and play rook c1. So that felt pretty good. Again, the rook on f6 is just sort of out of the game from, it's defending, it's maybe threatening to go to h6 at some cases, but it's not allowing black to challenge the c file. Which feels increasingly relevant. The knight doesn't have very good squares. If at some point takes, then I'll take. If ever bishop takes, I was just going to take with the f pawn, and this knight is it has no ability to get to this square, which is sort of what I'm playing for. This bishop is bad. This bishop would be better, but still bad. It doesn't have many squares. So I felt like strategically I have a slight edge here. Maybe a significant edge, maybe like +1 sort of advantage, but um, nothing crazy. And then rook h6 was played, and so then this is clearly a blunder. It blunders a piece, and so I was able to very easily win from this position. Queen h4, just accelerating the process after, now I'm up a rook. I'm going to take a bishop. The position for black has just completely collapsed. So that was an unfortunate blunder by my opponent, where it was, sort of an interesting position up until that point. Let's take a look. So against the a6 Slav, this knight d2 move. In the other game, my opponent played bishop f5. In this game, b5. Interesting that b3 and c5 are both considered superior to c takes d5, but I sort of understood this structure better, so I went for it, and it's still pleasant for white. E6, a4. Now black should already play ba, which makes sense. This structure, I guess, is not, I was correct to evaluate this structure as ideal. Somehow BA is just never considered. I just never really look at this move because it always feels like it's giving me a target on a6. Um, but I guess if the target is well defended, then it's, I have a target on b2 in some lines, so it's maybe just what needs to be done. Castles, bishop d6, and I play this early knight e5. Apparently e4 already. Bishop d6 sort of felt wrong to me because of knight e5, but other moves. E4 is very strong. Just playing for the immediate initiative. Knight e5 is fine. And now f4. Castles. Yeah, I should maybe just play a little bit slower. Queen h5, maybe not the most needed move. Rook f3 first. a5 being given is very strong just to artificially isolate the pawn. Maybe a knight can come in here. Queen h5. So knight f6, I wasn't actually that concerned by. I thought knight f6, I just played queen h4. Is there an issue with this move? Somehow a5 is very strong. Why is this so strong? If I start playing like g4. Ah, bishop a6 trading off my light square bishop. This is the purpose of a5. Um, yeah, it's like just in time also. Like if I play maybe like rook f3 would be better try, bishop a6, bishop b1. But now queen c7 is hitting, uh, if bishop was on c2, queen c7 would hit it there too. So just concretely, knight f6 is working. Um, Instead f5, which I thought was important, but was not. Knight f3. So knight g5 was working. This is somehow working. Knight g5, h6, knight e6. Oh, not because of rook e6. This move. Wait, no. No, this is working. This is working for me. Oh, but not because I take the rook, because I take on f5 and threaten mate. I see. So yeah, this move was missed. I was mainly looking at taking the rook and then this. I was not looking at the idea of knight takes e6 with the combination of going to h7 like this. But this is very difficult. Very difficult. Now knight f8, knight f7 is a fork. So I'm going to be winning there. Yeah, no, I should have seen that. That's sort of a tactic that's within my ability to see. But I don't know, it was a faster time control, and I think I was just off on this day because this is the only game I won. And yeah, I should be seeing stuff like knight h. I saw the move, but I just didn't calculate the completion. Bishop d2 is a fine alternative move. Knight takes, knight d7, rook c1. All these moves are fine. They're not the most, they're not very ambitious. Well, they're just moves, just allowing my opponent to make a mistake. And in this case, my opponent made a very serious mistake, and the game ended pretty soon. Reasonable game, I guess, but I'm not that happy with missing knight g5, um, not playing e4. There's just a lot of ways that that game could have gone better. Okay, game three. I'm black again. We have another Caro-Kann, this time with the two knights. Bishop g4 was my preparation, general preparation going into the game. And then this strange move, bishop e2. So the main moves in this position, I believe, are d3 and d4. Bishop e2, I was not familiar with. Um, so I felt like, okay, the reason, like after d3 and d4, uh, that's to stop me from playing like if I played d4, then the knight has an e2 square. So here it felt like if I played d4, which I do eventually do, the knight needs to go back to like b1 or d1. b1 makes more sense. And it felt like if I can do this, then I should, because it's gaining space, undeveloping the knight. But really, this pawn is sort of overextended, especially if I don't really know what I'm doing. And my opponent did know what he was doing for some time. Uh, Castles, knight gf6, d3, bishop d6. And then this plan with g3, I I, uh, I severely underestimated, because queen g2 and f4 is very strong, with all my pieces placed the way that they are, especially with the e5 square where my knight wants to go. I castle knight d2, and then I play knight e5 sort of as like an automatic move, but I think it's a mistake. I think this move is bad because after queen g2, I've sort of just walked myself into this expansion on the king side, with the pawns. So I play bishop c7 to avoid a fork, f4, knight g6, knight f3. I played rook e8. I'm not really sure what it does, but it felt like at some point white might want to play f5 and I'll be able to open up my rook, but it's very passive. I don't really know how black is supposed to play actively at this point. It's sort of just I've allowed too much. Maybe I should be playing more on the queen side as I start to do on the next move, but I think it's just bad. h5, a5, queen h3, and I play knight f8 prophylactically against h5, but then g4, and we get this horrendous position. I mean, I'm extreme. One of the most passive positions I've had in a very long time, with the knights. I was sort of hoping that I could get my opponent to overextend the king side, and then sort of like you come at me, and then your position's in ruins once I survive the attack. In this case, I never survived the attack. h5. I play f5. Um, Probably not necessary, but felt like I should be preventing this pawn from advancing to f5. That felt like sort of just game over. So f5 takes. If he leaves this tension, I felt like I can always meet g6 with h6 and h6 with g6, and there I'm sort of like building some sort of blockade on light squares or dark squares, whatever it is. Hard to break through. So he takes, knight g5, queen e7, h6. And now here I think is my last real chance to not be like completely steamrolled. In the game I play g6 here, which I think is very bad. I think that I need to be comfortable allowing the files to open. Um, because at a certain point, right, like this pawn is an asset for white if it's allowed to live here. Um, in this position, I really want to play h6. If I can play h6, I felt like maybe I was okay. But here, if I play g6, this advanced pawn like this is just always going to be problematic for me. And if I take, yes, I have this target on h7, but I also have a g file to work with. Um, Maybe I can maneuver over that way. It's still probably very dangerous. I think white's position is very good already. g6, not so good. Knight d5, bishop g4, threatening some stuff. I play queen d7 with the very optimistic plan of bringing the knight over to f5. If I can get there, then I feel like I'm okay. But I can never play that move because the e6 pawn is hanging. So now I sort of go on this crazy mission where I'm trying to like attack the c pawn and maybe provoke some sort of weakness or something. Like my hope is that maybe I can get the bishop off of the e3 square so I could jump in there. Rook c1 and I grab this pawn and I mean I wasn't seeing things. Like I thought this move I didn't think was possible because I would take the pawn, and then I take the pawn, rook a1, and I realize only here that my e6 pawn is, I can't like take on b4 with the pawn. It's going to be rook takes a8, and e6 pawn is going to drop. And once e6 pawn drops, f5 is going to happen. My whole setup is my already very passive setup is going to fall apart. So here, knight b4 is probably just like completely wrong. Maybe I should be playing like c5 and rook a6 to defend this thing and then reroute the knight like that. Maybe that would be okay. It's still probably very bad. White probably has ways of making it a problem for me. But this is sort of just accelerates the game, especially since I don't take this bishop. I should probably take it and go into the end game down these couple, like he's going to have these two pawns in the center. But that's maybe survivable. But here instead I play queen e7, which is just panicking move. Um, takes knight of 7. I mean, I should never allow this. I should never allow this to occur. Rook e7, rook a4. Rook e7, probably I can play a4 and it's maybe a little bit better, but still not much. Allowing rook a4, also very bad. And then after queen h4, I have to resign because there's no way to defend the rook. It's just terrible. It's just a terrible game. We can look at it with the machine just to confirm the things that I was saying about it. Let's see. Yeah, d4. D4 is a move. It's a fine move, but really I should not be doing this if I'm not totally sure what I'm doing. Knight b1, knight d7, knight f6. Yeah, and now here the position is already bad. g3, I need to not castle. I need to play rook g8 even. h5. I just castling is just walking to this attack, and it's very bad. Knight e5 is also a very bad move, I would say, accelerating the attack because now f4 is coming with tempo. Bishop c7, f4. Position is extremely bad. Rook e8 is passive, but position is just passive already. Yeah, h5 I should play. I thought h5 was just going to end up being a weakness, but it's probably like I need to have a weakness now because this position is just terrible. Instead of a5, knight f8 is right now, but it's already very bad. King g8, knight g8. Position is completely winning for white. F5 is the best move to hold on, I would say, to try at least. Takes, knight g5, queen e7. All this is fine. Yeah, and here I just need to play gh. It's just bad, everything I do, but gh I think is the right way to go with queen g7 idea. If he goes into the end game, I knew I was much worse, but I was like a little bit optimistic that maybe I could hold this. I probably shouldn't be. G6 is just basically resigning the game. Queen d7. Yeah, this knight b4 move is, position is very tough, but knight b4 is just, especially this move, it just accelerates the end. Rook a1. Yeah, here, I don't know. I don't know. I was thinking after the game, why didn't I just take this bishop? I really should have. In fact, in fact, yeah, here, if I, oh, I have this move Queen D5. I didn't see that move. I was thinking I would get a position like this. This is what I was looking at. Queen takes e6, queen takes e6, knight takes e6. And I evaluated this endgame correctly as completely lost. You know, bishop b6 holding onto the pawn, but it doesn't matter. It's just white has, it's just way too good for white. So that's what I was seeing, which is why I didn't take it. But if I see, um, if I see I have an alternative move here, queen d5. Why is this so strong? What if the bishop just retreats? But then I can take on g5, and I'm doing well. Yeah, missing moves, and especially a move like, I mean, knight takes e6 is like the only try, right? Because after this move, it's just completely lost. So I just have to take on e6 and hope I find something. Really should have been findable, and it was not. Just shows the form that I was in this game. Very poor. And so now we go into the final game, which is a very painful game. Probably not even the worst game that I played, but very painful. Playing against a 1500. Uh, we get a queen c2, Nimzo. a3, queen takes, b6, bishop g5. Now d5 immediately, um, d5 immediately is interesting. Normally they play bishop b7, and there I'll play the move f3. That's my preparation there. But here, d5, now it gives me the option of taking, and after pawn takes, I get to just play e3, and I'm very happy with this sort of structure because the pawn is fixed on d5. If at any point c5 is played, you know, I have like a rook that can come to the c file, so I'm sort of prepared against c5 as long as I can hold that under control. Now, if the bishop goes to b7, it really isn't doing much. H6, and that seemed to me like I was already very happy with my position after e3 because it sort of felt like this was not the most correct way for black to play. H6 though is sort of giving me a pawn, right? If I take on f6 and g takes, that's very nice for me, and if queen takes, I take on c7. So I do this, and now I didn't understand, like, you know, he plays knight c6. I didn't understand how scary my position could be. It sort of felt like I grabbed the pawn, but I haven't done anything dramatically wrong. So as long as I play a developing move, I should be okay. But I develop the wrong way. I play rook c1. This, I think, is a mistake. Maybe the machine won't say it's a mistake. Maybe there's a way to hold, but it allows this move knight takes d4, which I did not consider at all. I was mainly looking at, you know, knight a5, knight e7. Both moves seemed to not do anything to me. You know, I thought worst case I can bring the queen back to g3. Like, I should be totally fine. Queen's never getting trapped. But this move came as a surprise, and I quickly realized how dangerous it was. Um, it's just, you know, I thought I have to take it now. Maybe I can even play another move like queen c3, and I can just play, you know, white's still slightly better. But I accept the piece sacrifice, which really is, you know, I felt like I should, but maybe I shouldn't. Rook e8, bishop e2, bishop a6, and you can already see, you know, the rook on c1 is completely misplaced. It's walking into skewer tactics. It's my knight isn't developed. I can't really, there's not a clear path for me to develop the knight even. I was thinking eventually I'd be able to play maybe king f1, take back on e2 when bishop takes, but I never even get that far. Queen c3. After the game, my there was a period of time where, you know, my opponent must have looked at the machine for this game, and then later on I was showing game to someone else, and my opponent sort of was like, "Oh, is this our game?" And he sort of showed some stuff. So I do understand now that this move, Queen g5, is very strong instead of rook c8. Queen g5 hits the g pawn. It also attacks the rook and makes it so rook c8 is going to win the game. So queen g5 would have been a winning move here. Instead, rook c8, and apparently this position is drawn still. I don't know, though, because after queen takes d4, it's very difficult to see how I'm supposed to draw this position, because rook is coming to c8. Like, I play this move, and now after rook c8, I play queen e1, and I lose like this, because now there's rook c1. There's pressure here. it's just lost. I mean, we can go there in a little bit, but here King F1 I felt was probably the blunder, but I wasn't totally sure what I should do instead. Maybe move like F3, just allowing it so that on Rook C8 I'll have a square for my king. You know, Rook C8, Queen D2. Um, maybe making the square is what I should do. But I don't know. It's a very tough position to play already, and I would not be surprised if Black is already better being down a piece. But this move is probably the lost move. So I get this endgame where I lose. You know, I have two minor pieces and a rook for a queen, which theoretically should be good, but he has three extra pawns and they're all passed. So it's really like I don't have much to play for here. And I try to like set up some um, blockade. You know, I threaten mate here. I get knight c2. I bring my rook back to e1. Uh, a2 is a very nice move. Here I was like in these sorts of positions, I was really hoping. I was like looking at lines where I could like play knight takes a3, queen takes a3, and bishop b5 winning, because I'm attacking the queen. I'm threatening mate, and I win the game there. So I was really like sort of still hoping that I would have something. But after queen b1 here, king e2, I realized like I don't really have anything. Here, I play rook d1, which I think is losing very quicker. I think everything's losing. But here, if I just play bishop b3, I'm not totally sure how, like, what the breakthrough method is going to be. Like, okay, d3 check. Let's say I bring the king back to f1. d2, rook comes to d1. And I sort of have this very strange construction where all three pawns are blockaded. It felt like it was not going to hold because I don't have, like, waiting moves. But I do sort of have waiting moves. Like, and the pieces aren't totally doing nothing. Like, the rook can still, like, swing back and forth between squares. Maybe I don't know. I definitely should have done this instead of Rook D1. Rook D1. I put up no resistance in any of my games in this tournament, which I was very disappointed by. Because normally I do put up pretty good resistance when I have worse positions, and this one I just collapsed each time. So that was very sad. In the game, D3 check and B3 was the winning combination, which forced resignation. So here, yeah, I got a good position. I know I got a good position. This even here, it's a good position for white. But after h6, this pawn is fine to take. Knight c6, and here I think like any developing move that's not with the rook is better. Just even knight f3 would be fine. You know, any move. But rook c1, yeah, allows this shot. And yeah, the machine says I should take it. Queen c3 is also a little slight edge for white, but takes rook e8, and I should block with knight. I mean, yeah, after looking at it in retrospect, it does make sense that blocking with the knight is better because then that allows me to play like f3 and uh, king f2 maybe. It's just hard to say. Bishop a6 black is already better. And yeah, queen g5 is winning move here. Instead, rook c8, queen d2, takes, queen takes d4. Yeah, f3 here. F3 is a move that holds. Machine said h3 may have held for a little bit, but now it second guesses it. It says f3 is the only move. I play king f1, which loses to a variety of moves. Even just bishop takes e2, knight takes e2, queen d3, pinning. There's not a way that I'm going to be able to get out of this pin, ever. This move is fine. Queen takes b2 is winning. And then, yeah, I'm just curious about this final little potential fortress. Let's just take a look. It says -6. But in this position, if I did play just bishop b3, d3 check, king f1, d2, rook d1, like, yes, it is completely lost, but it's interesting that like all three of the pawns are stopped. But you know, he basically is up a queen at this point, so it's just queen versus pawns. Um, yeah, it's not going to hold. He's gonna break through with the pawns eventually. Even if all the pawns come off, it's just gonna be king versus queen, king and queen versus king, and that's not going to be survivable. So I still would have lost, but maybe a little bit more practical chances if I got something like this. I am attacking the A pawn, um, so you do have to be a little bit careful about not losing that. Probably if you just put the queen on E2 just to prevent me from doing it, moving the bishop. Um, but yeah, more chances here than in resigning in one move. Anyway, that was the tournament. Um, it was very disappointing. I lost 40 rating points, so that sets me back quite a ways. Um, the next tournament I have is next weekend. It's Hartford Open, and I'm hoping that I can have a good tournament there because this one was sort of very, yeah, like I said, very disappointing. Um, yeah, I guess that's it for this video. It's a longer one, but I just wanted to get them all out in one video so we could just be out in the world for all of you to see my sufferings and mistakes. And yeah, we'll keep the content coming. Tournaments are they'll keep coming, and yeah, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.